Dude, you got to tell me a little bit about this duck hunt thing you were doing.
The
What?
duck hunt. Okay.
What was
Okay.
that?
So, so this dude on Twitter, Ballin Phil, shout out to Ballin Phil. He tweeted like an idea, like a screenshot of like a thing where you get a discount code and there's like a little mini game you got to play where I think it was like that game where you got to like bang
Spin
three.
the wheel or something?
Well, spin the wheel is like a pretty common discount thing
Hmm.
where you get a certain discount by spinning a wheel. Like I see that all over the place. I kind of hate it. I kind of hate all these things, but they seem to work, you know? This episode is brought to you by Smile.io, the loyalty platform trusted by thousands of the fastest growing Shopify Plus businesses to increase repeat purchases, reward VIPs, and build lasting customer relationships. Smile helps businesses become more profitable while discounting their products less. You got to be careful with the discounts. You don't want to push too hard on the discount pedal. If you're ready to turn transactional sales into lifetime customers, start building a more profitable business with Smile.io today. Okay, dude, so what's the sitch with your hedge purchase? Where are we at? What are we looking
Quick
at
update.
percentage
I
wise? Give me a
found
status
my
update.
passport
Nice,
and it is valid until 2031, so we're good there.
nice.
And I think I'm just gonna use my IT buffer budget to buy plane tickets. So I think we're
Nice.
good. I think we're good.
Sounding like we're getting close to a lock.
I saw you talking about some stuff going on.
Here is the pre-event situation, okay?
Okay.
Last year, Gadget and Mantle put on a pre-event called Preditions. Perfect name, by the way.
Nice. Always got to play
And
off of the name of the
yeah,
conference.
just like Pre-Imagine, it was perfect. And then it was the day before, and then they had this great little after party. And so I was like, okay, I'm getting in the day before so I could find a way to squeeze in there. But I'm not getting until like 5 p.m. But so turns out their pre-party or their pre-event is 2 days this year. They changed the name to Tectonic.
Whoa.
Okay, whatever. Not no
Sounds
judgment.
seismic.
Yeah, we're not gonna get too hot and bothered about that. But it's a 2 day, and then there's no after party on the 28th. I think they have something on the 27th, maybe some kind of a nighttime situation. But anyways, I just found out that Zapiet and Judge Me are doing a little shindig on the 28th. So I'll shoot you that link.
Okay.
I just signed up. So I've got my May 28th night all worked out.
Heck yeah. Okay, so
So
conference is 29 and 30, Thursday and
right,
Friday. And
right.
there's some stuff happening on Wednesday. So I should get in at some point on Wednesday. Okay.
Which day
28.
is Wednesday? Is that the
28.
so it's hap so the pre-event is 27th and 28th, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Dang, that's a lot.
Yeah, I know it's a lot. It's a bit much,
But I guess if
but
you're cool, you'll be there.
yeah. I mean, I'm bummed that I'm not going to make it to that because last year that event was real cool. I actually tried. I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can reschedule. I've never rescheduled a flight ticket in my life. I was like,
Oh, really?
no. Who does that kind of
I
a
do
thing?
that. I do that a lot.
Okay. I made several rookie mistakes. I didn't use the promo code for Air Canada
Mm,
because I was just being lazy. And then I got the cheapest rates, which who
they won't
doesn't
let
get
you
the cheapest
reschedule, huh?
rates? And you can't reschedule. I was like, I was assuming they might let me pay $100 or something like that, reschedule, but they just don't. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why? Like, isn't it in both of our best interest if I could pay a few bucks,
Well, they added a
especially.
new SKU so that you have a cheaper option, but you can't change anything at all about it because you used to be
Yeah,
able to reschedule it no matter what.
why not? I mean, yeah. So anyway, I couldn't reschedule it, so I'm kind of screwed.
It's casual.
Yeah.
I think 3 days will still be pretty awesome.
Yeah, dude. I mean, should be chill. And then I'm gonna be there. I'm actually be there till Sunday. I actually gave myself a little breathing room on the tail end which hopefully some people will be around. Probably no, but probably be sitting in a bar in Toronto by myself.
I'm sure you'll get some business prospects working.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully,
Meet with
hopefully.
Toby. Get some
Yeah,
coffee
maybe.
with Toby and Harley.
Yeah, maybe hang out with Tobes a bit. That's the
Yeah.
plan. I noticed he posted a tweet. He said that he's typing more into AI models now than email or Slack. And that I was like, that is pretty crazy. Like
Yeah, I'm behind.
if you think about, I was trying to think if I do. I mean, I guess if I'm in Cursor, I'm doing it a good amount. If I'm just
Hmm.
talking about using like Chat GPT or something, I'm not using it nearly that much. But
Yeah, I'm not either, but I bet Toby's got his own like whole system set up where he types it into some box and then it ships it off into like five different things and they all do something different. He's
yeah, he's
probably got his
probably
own custom thing.
yeah, he's probably got a setup. He had tweeted something about like he had this idea for something he wanted. It was basically a project idea. He was like, "Hey, if somebody wants to do this, I'd be interested." And I was like, "I gotta figure this out." So it was like,
Laser
it was
focus.
it was something like there was this open source voice to text thing that he saw, and he was saying, if somebody can convert this to like web assembly or I don't know something. I reread the tweet like 19 times, but I didn't.
You
I was
gotta you
like,
gotta paste that bad boy into Chat GPT and let it
I know. I was
Kalenify it.
like, dude, if I could pull this off, this would be my moment to get on his
Hmm.
radar. But yeah, it didn't happen.
I have to go see what it
But
was. Maybe someone's figured it out.
yeah, probably somebody's figured it out by now. I mean, it's such a huge shift. It's a pretty dramatic shift when you like think about it
Yeah.
in that
I
context.
still feel like I'm behind on Cursor. I got to try and I have an idea for something. I'm not in VS Code that often these days, which is unfortunate, but I would love to do this.
Unbelievable.
We talked about the NetSuite 2 thing that's happening where they're replacing their Suite Analytics
Right.
endpoint and
Right.
it's completely shifting all of the schema. So like transactions are now called transaction and tran date is now like creation date or something. So there's like a small change to every single thing. I'm wondering if I can open my project, my DBT project, and then also include
What's a
the
DBT project?
DBT is like imagine you have a transactions table that's coming out of NetSuite.
Yeah.
DBT is basically a bunch of joins that sit on top of each other to make it actually usable data. So, like, you'll have a DBT file that will run a SQL query against the raw transactions lines, and it figures out if
Okay.
a certain transaction is new or repeat. So it does
Okay.
that by like ranking all of this customer's orders. If there's one above one, then it's a repeat.
Okay.
With the intention of, okay, we have these raw tables. DBT looks at all those, creates new tables that like actually have useful information in them.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
But I have like there's almost 200 of these files, and I have to go through all of them and update the schema. I'm wondering
Oh
if I can
wow.
just throw Cursor at that bad boy and be like, "Hey, Cursor, here's a CSV that lists out all of the before and afters. Go to my code base and update it for me." I don't know if that's a thing, but I feel like
Yeah,
that's where my Cursor
that'd
knowledge will
be
come in.
worth taking a stab at it. I've seen it be pretty good at those kind of like fuzzy find and replace type deals.
Okay.
It's like if you're doing it on one file, I've seen it be, I'd say it'd be probably do a pretty decent job. And then if you try to get it to do multiple files, it probably might do a pretty good job, but I wouldn't be surprised if it maybe hit a little snag on 200 files.
Okay. Each of the
But it'd be
files are
worth
pretty
it.
small,
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah, I'll have to give it a shot.
Yeah, give it a shot, dude. Because that could, I mean, it could just work.
Do you usually give it like a like here's an external resource that you can reference, or do you just put the resources in the code base that you need it to know about?
Sometimes I'll link to a documentation link or something like that. Usually by default, I probably don't. I just say, hey, can you do this? Dude, like it figured out the other day how to do a Shopify meta object search on field or something similar to that. And I didn't paste in any documentation or anything. I was like, dude, how did it get that so quick?
Heck yeah. Has it done like JavaScript to Rust conversion or anything for you?
Yeah, I did that. I did. So, okay. So I did the JavaScript to Rust conversion, and the way it got weird, like the first thing I did is I tried to one shot it. I said, hey, convert this JavaScript thing to Rust. And I didn't like understand types that well. So I just kept pasting errors in repeatedly like an idiot. And it was
Yeah.
sort of fixing them kind of a little bit. And then it finally got to where it was working. And then I did some unit tests and I got it to pass all the unit tests. So it's like, cool, I'm good. And the unit tests they run sort of like locally. They're not running the actual like WebAssembly stuff.
Yeah.
So then I went to deploy it and I hit some weird error. It was like the function isn't exporting the right run thing or something. So then I couldn't figure that out. I got stuck. I started over with a basic Rust app, that like the out of the box Rust app.
Hmm.
And I got that working. I deployed it. I make sure it had the right function deployed. Da da da. Made sure it actually ran in the environment. Logged stuff out. Okay, cool. And then I started adding onto it from that working state. And also by then I kind of understood the types a little better and the way that the
Hmm.
GraphQL schema works versus like Rust types and stuff like that. And then also those weird camel case stuff that it does. And so then I was able to finally get it working. So I mean, it definitely I would have never had a prayer of doing the Rust myself. Like I just look at it, my eyes glaze over.
Yeah.
So it
I don't know
definitely
anything
helped.
about Rust. I gotta go
It's
look at it.
and here's the kicker, dude. At the end of all of it, I'm almost certain that all of the savings of Rust are like the same as if you just don't parse JSON metafields in JavaScript, which
Dang
you
it.
don't have to anymore because you can just get the parsed JSON value for JSON metafields now. I think that came out in like January or something.
Oh, like directly from the API or
So
something like that?
yeah, instead of going value under the metafield, you go JSON value and it pulls it in pre-parsed.
Oh, okay.
And so then when I ran them side by side, they were like pretty much like I went from like 30 line items up to like 60, 70, and I think Rust was like 75 and like JavaScript was like 69 or something like that. So it was like
Is this
pretty
number of
much
items in the cart
number of
before it
line
breaks?
yeah, number of line items, yeah. So I was like, the risk of deploying this language that I don't understand at all, I was like, I don't think it's
Yeah.
worth it. But so many people say that they see huge improvements from JavaScript to Rust, so there's probably more that I don't quite understand,
Guess it depends on the
but
complexity of the logic outside of parsing JSON.
yeah, probably. Because honestly, in our case, I don't think it's very complicated at all
Hmm.
outside of that. So yeah, that's how it is sometimes. Is you kind of like if you start prompting in a certain way, you can kind of get in a weird rut,
Yeah, you're
and
down a path and you gotta like back out.
yeah. Dude, and this is so funny. Okay, so I was thinking about how, like, with the models, there's that dynamic that if you, sometimes you're better off starting over because even if you say, no, don't do that, or no,
Hmm.
don't, sometimes it can understand that, but by and large, it doesn't do a great job of like forgetting stuff that you kind of want it to forget, and you're better off just starting fresh.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I was like, that's so weird. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, people aren't like that. Why is it like that? And then I was thinking about how, like, I have this one client and we were talking about building some flows and stuff. And they said, I said, like, well, I don't know how many hours it takes. Like, I'm not going to go off and spend 30 hours on this flow without telling you. And they're like, well, I was thinking it'd take more like a half hour for each flow. And then in my head, I was like, oh man, that's really low. I was like, so I started doing some work on it and I felt this like pressure that I had to, so I even told them, I was like, hey, listen, that's a bit low for me. Maybe this isn't a fit. They're like, no, honestly, it's fine. I was just kind of just saying that off the top. They basically told me to forget what they said. And then
But you couldn't.
but I couldn't. I couldn't. I literally couldn't. And then I think I said something again. I was like, okay, I got this flow done and I actually did get it done in this amount of time. But honestly, I was like, I'm kind of rushing and I would have preferred to add a unit test here, but I didn't because of the da 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 da. And they said it again. They said, don't worry about it. And it's stuck in my head that that's their expectation. If I don't bang these out quick, then you know what I mean? That really cracked me up.
It's less of a like it's their expect. I mean, maybe it is, but also like you just probably internalize that as a challenge in that moment,
Yes.
and you can't let it
Yes.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't let, yeah. And then I was thinking like with models, you can start a new prompt and you're good to go. But with human interactions and stuff, there isn't really a way to do that.
Like to
Like,
unsay something. Yeah, you're just kind
yeah.
of screwed.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of eventually get there and work through it. Like if they say, hey, no, 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 I really, really, really want to blah, 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 blah. But it's like, it's so weird how I was like, people aren't like that. I was like, they are. Like, it's probably just the nature of like neural networks that when something, like something puts a footprint on the network, like
Yeah,
it's just hard. So weird.
it's super interesting. I'm like, yeah, all that stuff and like us learning about how it works is all like so new
Yeah.
still, and it's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got to fire up Cursor and see what I hate about it. I tried it once on like a 1,000 line JavaScript file and it just destroyed it. So I got to
Right.
give it a try on this different
Yeah,
project.
dude. Take another crack at it. Well, on the NetSuite side of things, I'm kind of pumped because I have this whole plan to, build an app to do the NetSuite integrations and kind of like, because I'm running into all these issues with iPass,
Hmm.
and I deployed a little piece of functionality live yesterday to sync some stuff in. So
Heck yeah.
yeah, and it's so I used Cursor to do the SOAP XML because like who the hell wants? I was
Oh,
like,
I was going to ask, how are you getting the data out of
yeah,
NetSuite? It's the SOAP,
yeah,
huh?
yeah. I was like, let me just try to get this thing working, and then I got it working. I was like, oh my gosh. And so it's been doing a decent job with it. Like when it hits an error message, it's able to generally figure it out. And I need to eventually get this current project is only using SOAP, but this other project I have in mind is using the REST API. And I'd like to get that figured out. I took a stab at
Yeah.
the REST API authentication, but I hit some snags. I got to probably take another shot at that at some point.
You know what could be interesting is if you're able to get in and like deploy a script within NetSuite,
Right.
is on some action in NetSuite or via a workflow, you could have a script that just pings an API, like pings a webhook with data that you need to something, and
Right.
like kind of build your own data extraction. No, like we do that simply in some place, but I don't know what your REST API data needs are.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually. I haven't done that yet, but I was thinking about it and I just haven't gone in there and looked at it. That might be simpler in some ways. I do like to be able to pull though, because like,
Hmm.
especially one thing that drives me crazy that's hard to do in a lot of the iPasses is like, I want to just test a specific record. Like there's something about this one customer that I want to test, and I have to either wait for it to come through on the update schedule
Hmm.
in order to test it or something like that. So I just want to have like some helper commands I can use to just like say, here's a specific thing, pull it and do whatever you're going to do on it. So certain things like that I'll want to pull, but
Gotcha.
definitely might be some use cases for something on the sweet script side.
Yeah,
But
I think the way that Soligo does it is they have some sort of like in between script that they can call to from outside. Like maybe there's a way to send a REST call into NetSuite that triggers a Suite script that then gives you back data based on the payload. Maybe that's a
Mm,
thing.
right. Yeah, there is like a REST API that you can like hit with SQL queries.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
that's pretty cool. I did that on the first project I worked on. I mean, that's a pretty decent little API because you can just run as basically arbitrary SQL queries. But it gets a little tricky if you want to get like the nice thing about SOAP API is you want to get a customer object and it's got everything on it, all the
Hmm.
subfields, all the custom fields, versus having to do a query and join in a bunch of stuff, and then you've got multiple records and you got to merge them in. It's a weird
Yeah,
deal. That's a little bit
guess
of a
it depends.
hassle.
Like if you're going for one single thing, then SOAP is fine. But if you need like 1,000 customers, that probably kills the internet if you have
Yeah,
that many, that much
yeah,
XML coming down the pipe.
yeah. It's pretty brutal. But yeah, I'm kind of excited because I got a couple bites from some people that might be interested. And actually, the CEO at Gadget is really interested in kind of going after the iPaaS market because, in the same way that they have like these nice connectors for Shopify, and you can just get in there, start writing code, and you've got your data models in there.
Hmm.
Basically, he wants to do the same thing with ERP connectors. And because he gets all this feedback from other agencies and stuff that they have all the same issues with iPaaS, and they're also super expensive. And so,
Okay.
so he actually was telling me that they might be down to like sponsor me if there's a merchant that it wants to migrate. He might be down to like sponsor me do the migration for free, so that it's like they don't even have to pay for it, and then their monthly fee will be lower. Hopefully, probably be significantly lower on Gadget. And then in the process, what he wants to do is take that and build it into their native Gadget functionality so that in the future they could have these really, nice native connectors.
Heck yeah, that sounds like a
So,
gig.
yeah, so that was pretty sweet. So that was cool. So hopefully something will come through on that front. But I'm feeling like this might be a thing for me. It's a weird category, but
Somehow got into
it's
being a NetSuite expert, but that would be an
I
interesting
know
project. Then you could like focus on like how could I make this reusable and
exactly,
do some funky
exactly.
stuff.
Yeah, because I'm constantly jumping from one project to another. I'm doing CSS
Hmm.
tweaks over here, and then I'm doing, and like to be able to have one thing to focus on where like you're leveraging that thing for different people so that you can really focus on it and then other people can use it and maybe get a little bit of that internet recurring revenue money would be pretty cool. But so yeah, we'll see. Let's see if that goes anywhere.
Nice. How's the flow work going? You still working on flows, or is it like a lot of gadget stuff these days?
I could be getting some little flows. I got a couple. Oh yeah, I did a little flow integration. There's this app called Admin Buttons, and it lets you add different buttons onto in the Shopify admin. Like let's say on an order page, using the admin extensions.
Oh, cool.
So then it lets you define custom buttons. Like there's one that lets you update custom attributes on an order, which you can't do, or you can't create new custom attributes on an order or on a draft order. There's a button and they let you define arbitrary buttons and then you can tie the button into a flow or you can tie it into, there's like some other triggers you can tie it into. So he has a bunch of templates for different buttons, like reship an order or like reship certain line items from an order, or like
Hmm.
just a bunch of little things like that he's tying the flows. So I was working on a couple of those. It's kind of
Was
cool.
there one you said that lets you update line item properties on a draft order?
The one I did does custom attributes on a draft order, so not the line item properties, but
Gotcha.
I think that was on there. That I think that was on his list too, was the line item properties.
Yeah, I found that they are not well support. Like it's hard to find apps that do that, which is weird to me.
Exactly.
We
Ex-
had infinite options, and it was like integral to our retail. situation because that's how, if a retail store needs to place an order for shipping from the warehouse
Yeah.
and the customer wants it monogrammed, like we had infinite options in there so they could click into
Right.
the infinite options tile, put on the monogramming size and letters and color, and then it
Right.
just went through like they normally do from the front end. But
Right.
there was a deprecation from Shopify on, I forget exactly what the API was for point of sale, but they removed it, and we so I had to do a bunch of quick research like yesterday, I think, and find another app that lets you
Oh,
do that.
shoot. Wait, so what did they deprecate?
Yeah, it was something to do with custom interfaces in point of sale because like the way it works, anytime you do something in point of sale, you have to click on one of those
One of the tiles?
tiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, point of sale app cart app extensions. So it's
Uh,
something to do with the cart, but we had to switch over to something that has like a real point of sale extension. What is the new extension called? POS UI extensions. So instead of a
right.
cart extension, it's a UI extension.
Oh, okay. Oh, so they're not up on the
Yeah,
latest
the app
version.
just like decided not to do it, I guess. So I
Ah,
was like, all right,
brutal.
guess we're going for another one. And anytime you find something like it's always point of sale is something that's tacked on to like the a lot of these are like you can do this in the storefront and also it's in the point of
Oh,
sale.
yeah. It's a total afterthought a lot of times.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that was another category I really wanted to get into was point of sale stuff. And I just did like one thing there, but I just didn't end up getting enough work to keep chugging on it. But that's,
Yeah, it's
man,
understandable. There's
I'm,
not like
yeah.
point of sale is not nearly as big as online store.
Yeah, but I'm really jealous of people that are working on apps there because it's like a cool
Yeah.
space to be working. It's like really early and it's like they keep talking about how huge those are going to be and they're in this kind of awkward stage now, like you're saying. So it's like easy to overlook them, but like fast forward a year from now, there's going to be some real killer apps that you're going to be like, "Damn, why didn't I build that?" You know?
Yeah, hopefully. Point of sale is really cool. It's really nice. Like compared to other point of sale
Yeah.
platforms, Shopify's point of sale is just so good.
Nice. Noise. Dude, I gotta give a shout out to RJ, the editor, because
Shout out.
on the episode 10 I recently listened back to, I remember being like feeling like a little bit off, like there was sort of like some extra awkward pauses, I remember. I was
Which
just
one was
not
that?
I just remember it was number 10. It was I guess must have recorded it now like 4 weeks ago or
Uh,
3 weeks ago. But I just remember in my head going, okay, I need to listen to number 10 because it's going to be a bit of a mess. And I listened to it and he tightened it all up, dude. It sounded great.
nice.
Yeah.
Get it, RJ.
Yeah.
That episode is titled Bundle of Shenanigans.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I told him to use the O3 Mini High model for like titles and transcripts and stuff. And I think we said that in the episode. I don't know, but it does a really good job of finding like titles. Most of the time we say like show title at some point, so I think it might key off of that. But it's
Well,
nice
that's
because it's
perfect.
just like, yeah, it's getting to the point where it's like pretty audible. It also does a good job of doing clips. So I'm gonna have him do the clips, and so
The clips
it's
always seem
good.
so well produced. Like when you post them on Twitter, it like
Oh, nice.
looks nice with the waveforms behind it, and it's always an interesting part.
Nice, nice. Yeah, those are fun. I was a little behind on posting them and want to get that cruising along. Also, shout out to Smile.io, dude, because they've been great, and it's really nice to have, to be able to afford the editor so that like I don't
Yeah.
have to be too. I think by now, if I was doing it all, I'd be getting to the point where I'd be like, all right, we got to do this once every other month.
Yeah.
And like he told me, he's like, Yeah, I just really want to support it, you know. And you never know, like, if they're gonna like, you know, nag you to death with like, add a pop-up banner to the website and like put three interstitials in. But they, you know, they like gave an ad read and then they're just like chill, you know. So it's,
That's cool.
I'm really grateful for that. Yeah,
Thanks, Smile.
Bill's the man. All right, I'm feeling cheesy. I'm doing all these shout outs, but
Shoutouts are important. People need to feel appreciated, okay? And it's not something we should be ashamed of.
right, because we're nice guys,
That's right.
because we're good
And you just
dudes.
got to live your life and you got to let other people know that they are having a positive impact on you.
Yeah.
Go team.
All the shout outs. I was looking at the Algolia app. Do you guys use Algolia for search? Oh no, you guys use the native search.
No. Yeah,
Okay,
I've used
yeah.
it in the past, but not
Right.
not at Kuyana.
I was looking at it and I saw that they have some flow integrations I thought was cool. They have like a trigger for top searches and a trigger for top searches with no results. You know, so you know you can get notified of people if people are searching for something and not getting any results. I was like, that's cool. That I love seeing a flow. I love a flow integration.
So does that mean that on some cadence they do something on their end that's like, okay, there have been 10 searches for this thing and there are no
Yeah.
results. Now we send a webhook. Okay.
They send a webhook into Flow, so then you know if you have the app installed, you can just set up a flow and use that trigger. You don't have to manually handle the deal with a webhook or anything like that. You just set up the flow trigger and then you can send yourself an email or do whatever.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Kind of slick.
Yeah, I wonder what else you could do with that besides send an email. Like try and fold it into an existing search term group or something.
Yeah, are there, man, there's, I wish I knew, I feel like the search, I don't understand very well. Is there API access into the search?
Oh, I don't know, because it is a separate app. So you have to go in and like change stuff within the app
Right,
interface. But maybe so usually with that, like there's not
right.
an API interface to it, but that would be
Yeah.
interesting. Because
I
then,
haven't,
yeah, like you could automate fixing zero result search
yeah, that'd be
terms.
cool. Yeah, I don't think I've seen it. I feel like there might not be, but somebody recently asked me about a Mesa flow to do some tie in some search terms, like popular search terms or something like that. And I was like, I didn't know if it was possible. I had a feeling it probably wasn't, but that would be super cool if there was a search, an
Yeah, that
API.
would be an interesting place to inject AI into Flow. Like based on the search term that is not getting any results and all the search terms that we currently have, fold this one into one that makes sense.
Yeah,
There's been
yeah,
some
that'd be
cool
cool.
stuff coming out with like AI integrated Flow things. It's getting
Oh yeah.
crazy out there. Like you can, like we're looking at this AI customer experience platform, and you can do stuff. It has a chat bot, and you can go in and look at the conversation and click into responses and see why the AI decided to make that response based on all of the information that you've given it.
Oh wow.
I think that's where the interesting like AI inside of flows that can just handle edge cases, so you don't have to be absolutely perfect in covering everything. Like you just got a thing that has context and can make decisions.
That's so cool. So is there like a percentage of customer support things that it's handling that it's like totally handling well? And then,
No, we're still talking to them. Hopefully I can work on this in the next couple months
uh,
and be done like by the end of April. But we did a chatbot and it didn't work well. It was like the free version of Zendesk's chatbot.
right.
And what ended up happening is it was a different kind of customer that was asking questions of the chatbot. So we just like the intention was to help our CX team not have so many things to handle, but we ended
Mm,
up getting different. Like people would email at the same rate, and we just had other customers who were now talking to the chatbot, and they had questions about like products and like how do I make this decision, whereas the email questions still came through that were like, where's my order? I need a refund. So it
mm,
ended up causing more work for our customer experience team, so we shut it off last year.
Right.
So this will be like try number 2,
Gotcha.
hopefully with some real AI in place and can
Right.
also handle emails.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I like when I hear the word AI customer support, I just hate it. Just because, like, you know what I mean? Just because you've been on the other end of it so
Yeah,
many times that
it's been
it's,
tried for so long.
yeah, it's been tried for so long. And like, it almost makes it harder. If there is one out there that's actually pretty good, I'll write it off within the first 3.5 seconds and not even realize that, okay, this actually is good. I should actually be using this. But I'm
Hmm.
so used to like writing off those AI customer support things that I probably won't even give it like a solid 6 second consideration.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it's definitely an uphill battle. But if you think about like everybody's using chat interfaces for AI right now, it just makes sense. Like
it makes so
if
much
if
sense.
I could just talk to the AI of a company and I needed to return my order and it handled that for me and I didn't have to wait for someone, and
Yeah.
also like that person might make mistakes with my stuff,
Yeah.
that just seems like it makes sense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're definitely not there yet.
Yeah, dude, no, 100%. Actually, Gadget has an AI tool within their web app, and they did a post showing like a one-shot AI prompt creation of like like a Shopify app, and that Mohammed had tweeted and got a bunch of traction. I thought it looked pretty cool, but I was like, well, I doubt you'll be able to like create a lot of useful apps with like a one shot.
Hmm.
But I finally went in and used it. It kind of like a little bit of a replacement for customer support in the sense that like certain things I've gotten stuck on before, like figuring out how to tie, just getting a basic working thing where I've got a button on the front end in Remix that
Hmm.
talks to the database, does a thing on the database, and I have a back end place where I can start doing stuff. Like
Hmm.
I've spun my wheels on that a lot in the past and going through their docs, and their docs are like, they're like kind of hit and miss. And there's a Discord for chat, which in theory should be good because everybody you can search, you can find things that have already been answered, blah blah blah. But
Right.
that's always a hassle. But anyways, I used it to like create some of that boilerplate, and it did a pretty solid job of it. So
Nice.
that was cool. And then I was able to kind of take it. Whereas like Cursor, it's too gadget specific. Like Cursor wouldn't have been able to help me at all with that.
Oh,
So
I
the
see.
fact that,
So they must
yeah,
have given it some like specific
yeah,
training,
it,
or like the
yeah,
resources that are available to it are very specific.
yeah. So that was helpful. That was kind of like a little bit of a customer support replacement ish.
That's cool. Yeah, when it works well like that, like Matrixify, the app also has a really good support AI
Right, right,
in their Slack, and they've been at that for a while. So really, I think it just depends on like knowing what you're doing with this thing and making sure that
right,
it's good.
right. Yeah, it seems like so much of it is in how you're applying the model to your problem space and
Hmm.
how much effort you're putting into getting the data in the right form. Whatever they got to do, like, oh, and you sent that AI thing, the browser
Madness.
integration, Manus. I took a quick peek at it and I was like, because I tried Operator, which if anybody should have the browser agent thing figured out, should be them, but it
You'd
wasn't
think.
great. But it, and I saw the website, and I mean, it looked like a good website. It like I could imagine it being really good, and I don't know if
Yeah, I watched their release video for a little bit,
oh
and there's
nice,
some crazy stuff in there. Like you can upload a PDF, and it opens the PDF in its own computer. So
uh
it's not just browser. It's like it can write code and then run it, and then ChatGPT can run Python code. But this thing
right.
apparently has its own entire system. So it's just like very general in terms of what it can do.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, now I know what you mean by when you said it has its own computer. That's crazy. That's crazy. That yeah, like if they pull it off, that would be so interesting because it's like Cursor is this small team and they're beating Microsoft with Copilot. Like they're destroying them.
Yeah.
And Microsoft, they're the giant company with the billions that is creating, helping to create these foundational models. Because a lot of people are like, oh, well, AI is just going to make these few companies rich. But it really doesn't seem like that. It really seems like small teams are able to use these foundational models in ways to build applications on top of them that they're able to actually do better than the bigger companies, which is a really good sign.
Yeah. And the only reason that that is possible is because of open source. It would not work
Yeah.
to, like, if Cursor was a small team and they had to make their own
Oh,
model,
yeah.
or they had to like start from scratch building an IDE. It just
Right.
would not have happened. So
Right.
it's super interesting that like all of this progress happens because of people's willingness to make things open source, which just makes you
Yeah.
feel good.
It's true because it's like open source has always been powerful, but it's kind of like powerful, but it's like always the second class citizen a lot of
Yeah,
times. But like AI is sort of putting it on steroids a little bit.
yeah, it's coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like it's coming back because you can layer something on top of something open source and have a really good AI application on top of it, which is kind of nuts, man. Like,
Yeah, I feel like that's where we are with this AI. Like everyone's working on base models and they're getting better, cool. But the thing that makes it into the internet is things all fitting together.
yeah,
And if you've got all these things that are good and open source, it's easier for someone to like have the aha moment to like, oh, these two things should work together, and bada bing, bada boom, put them
yeah,
together,
yeah,
something new happens.
yeah, yeah. I gotta check out that browser one. That'd be so cool to be able to just have your browser just do stuff.
Dude, you got to tell me a little bit about this duck hunt thing you were doing.
The
What?
duck hunt. Okay.
What was
Okay.
that?
So, so this dude on Twitter, Ballin Phil, shout out to Ballin Phil. He tweeted like an idea, like a screenshot of like a thing where you get a discount code and there's like a little mini game you got to play where I think it was like that game where you got to like bang
Spin
three.
the wheel or something?
Well, spin the wheel is like a pretty common discount thing
Hmm.
where you get a certain discount by spinning a wheel. Like I see that all over the place. I kind of hate it. I kind of hate all these things, but they seem to work, you know? But he was saying like it was like a whack-a-mole type of a game or something where if you whack three moles, you get a discount. And I was like, I think that idea of like mini games, which the spinning wheel is kind of like a version of a mini game that seems
Hmm.
to work and everybody seems to use it. But like I was thinking, yeah, like mini games connected to discounts or something seems like it should work. So then I just used Cursor to create like Duck Hunt. I don't know why that was the first game I thought about, but it
How long
like
did it take you to get through the I'm sorry, but I can't remake Nintendo games for you? Or did it just do it right away?
no, it just did it right away. Like it, it's there's got to be some open source code or some
Uh,
code that it was able to find that did this exact. I mean, I'm sure people have like done this like a billion times. So
hmm.
it grabbed it and then it pretty much worked fine the first time. So then I was like, so I actually have this one client that sells like hunting gear. And I pitched it to I shot them an email. I was like, I think they're going to go for this because they're pretty cool. Like they're funny and they're cool. And I haven't heard back at all on that email. and then, and then after that, I was like, dude, I was like, this is so easy. We can create all sorts of little mini game, like little themed mini games, and then like you can brand them and whatever. So then the next day, I was like, all right, let me create one of those deer hunting 3D simulator games
Oh yeah,
because I was looking at this site, Carnivore Snacks, that sells like beef jerky or something.
yeah.
And so I started doing it. It was horrible. It sucked. And there's this library called 3JS that's pretty good for 3D stuff.
Yeah.
But so so the thing with games is that you got to have the artwork assets. And without that, it just puts in like a square or a rectangle. And like, so then
Not
I
a
was like,
beautiful 12-point buck poking out from behind a tree.
yeah, like it doesn't have, because I'm pretty sure because nobody open sources that artwork. Like all those fucking game people, they put all their artwork behind licensing and stuff. So
So rude.
I think that's why it wasn't able to really do it. And then next, I was like, all right, let me create like a basic fighting game where like a guy comes at you and you punch him. Um, because like they have Joe Rogan as a highlight on their website, and I was like, I could do a Joe Rogan fighting thing, and it was horrible. It was just like squares, and then I was like, make it a character, and it was a goofy, smiley stick figure character, and like I couldn't figure out how to get it to pull in like artwork. So then I was like, okay, yeah, there's like only really simple, like very simple games I think are easy to do right now. Like at least the way I was doing it. So it's
Just
ruining
like
my hopes
shapes
and
of
dreams.
stuff. I wonder if you
Yeah,
could get like I wonder if Dolly can make sprite sheets.
it probably can. It probably can. That's probably the way to do it is figure out how to generate it. It probably takes a little bit of work to understand how what those
Yeah.
sprite formats are supposed to be. And there's got to be a way to generate those. But like that's a perfect example of where I just wasn't doing it in a smart enough way to feed in
Yeah. Just
the
give it to me,
artwork.
cursor. Just do everything.
Yeah.
I have the idea, you do the work.
Yeah. I was like, why can't it just do it? Just like make a deer, like just make a beautiful
Come
looking deer.
on.
Yeah, like why can't you do this? You know? It's like it's so much less complicated to draw a deer than to like write all of this code.
Yeah.
But the only reason to write all that code is because it has all this sample data. Yeah, that's a
I bet the
perfect.
Adobe AI could make a sprite
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm sure there's got to
in
be ways to
Photoshop,
do that.
but you got to pay them like $1 million a year.
Oh, is their AI thing really expensive?
Just Photoshop is expensive.
Oh, okay. I thought Photoshop was just like a monthly, like $20 or something.
Oh, maybe for a certain version. I feel like I pay a lot for.
You're on the enterprise plan.
I have like 20 people with
Yeah,
licenses, and it's just like I just see the end number. I'm like, oh man, this is so much.
dude. You probably have a good support. You're probably the only person with like a good support contact at Adobe Photoshop too. Just like at Shopify, you have this great support contact. I saw this dude post recently. He was like, Shopify support sucks. And I was
Oh,
like,
I do feel like it's getting worse. Like when
yeah.
every now they dump you into the help center automatically and have you talk to the AI
Oh,
first,
really?
no matter what. So I feel like I've started opening fewer tickets. Maybe that was their goal.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
The
Yeah.
turntables have turned.
Yeah, that's so funny. I mean, you don't want to be too negative, but at the same time, like when I saw that, I was like, sometimes you gotta just say it how it is. And like Shopify is a company that, a lot of us deeply admire, but the support a lot of times it sucks. I mean, there's just no other way
You
to
know,
say it.
maybe they're training the AI or something, and
Yeah,
it'll be better for all of us
I
because
know.
we've dealt with
I
this
know.
pain. But
I know.
it's all I sense right now is the pain. So,
I think also it's probably one of those things, just like I thought the deer should be easy to do. Like I feel
mm,
like because Shopify is a great company and they have a lot of smart people and they have great software, that you should be able to just do support great, like you should just be able to do that. Why can't you just do that? How hard is that? Because I'm only
yeah,
thinking about one individual. Like I'm only thinking, well, I could do a better job of support for one person if I only had to do it for 20 minutes a day and
hmm
I didn't have to do it for a long time. But doing it at scale, like, is probably just extremely difficult,
totally different problem.
and
Yeah,
expensive. So that's probably just what it is.
it is what it is. There's a
Yeah.
lot of like expectation these days also that you can have some sort of chat interface and just get the data you want. Like I'm working on this data stuff because of the NetSuite thing, and it feels like there's always been this desire to have self-service analytics and reporting. Like,
Right.
okay, all of our data is in this place. Now, I just want to know, like, the only thing I want to know is how many new versus repeat we had this week versus last year, and
Right.
also make sure that it accounts for like our fiscal calendar, which ends in January, and sometimes there's
Right.
years that have 53 weeks. So like
Right.
it is, when you get into it, there's a lot more difficulty than what you think about from the outside, and like until
Right.
you get there, it's like, why can't you just tell me what I need to know?
Right. Right. Although I feel like those types of natural language queries, if there's not something doing them now, I feel like that's going to happen pretty soon. And it's going to be glorious because, I mean, if I had to do what you just said, I'm sitting there for a half hour just figuring out how to start thinking about building this thing. And then
Yeah,
it's going to take me time to go in and build it. But that seems
there's
like
so
the
many
kind of
edge
thing.
cases, but it feels like
Yeah.
AI should be able to help with some of those edge cases as long as it has like the knowledge of the way that you want to do things. It's
Yeah.
just it hasn't all been tied together yet.
Like I'm almost certain that if I were to ask for that in JavaScript and Cursor, it would nail it. Like it would nail it on the first time. But when you're talking about having a data tool that you can talk to that I don't know how it's working under the hood or how the data is stored, you'd need a model that knew the data store and you could just
Yeah,
talk to it and like I don't know. But that's going to be
and it
so
needs to
cool when you
like
can do that.
update its memory over time. Like, what does demand mean for your company? Like, do you include shipping? Do you include tax?
Hmm.
And just like build up all of that context over time. And
Hmm.
then when someone asks for something, they don't have to go make sure you're using demand that accounts for the fact that there was an extra week last month. It just knows
Hmm.
all of that.
Right, right. Has like a set of rules that it knows. I have a question for you. I have a client that has a loyalty program where if somebody spends, $1,000, they're in the bronze tier, 2,000 silver, da da da. And I'm doing that in Mesa. I'm just grabbing their orders, summing up the order totals, and putting it towards that. But then they have another CRM system which counts up totals, and we're trying to reconcile them because their
Hmm.
numbers are different than mine. And we what they do is they only count the product line item basically in their sort of customer value calculation. They don't count taxes, they don't count shipping. And I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, that's actually better because it gets at kind of, the actual amount, like the more like the net amount you're getting as a business.
Hmm.
But then I was like, wait a minute. But the customer, if they spent $100 and that included tax and shipping and everything else, they're going to expect that that $100 went towards the numbers they're seeing towards the loyalty tiers.
Yeah,
So you
I
have
agree.
to kind of have to go that route.
Yeah, I think that's the way you go. But then you also include discounts. So, like, maybe the CRM is not including less discounts.
Right.
But I guess the way that you could think about it is if you've got a discount that makes shipping free at $95, do you expect tax to be included in that or not? Usually, discount apps let you choose, but it's kind of a business decision.
Hmm.
And then the other thing that's weird is if someone decided to return something, does
Right.
that net out? Or like in Shopify, if you're doing that calculation in real time, it probably nets out, but maybe it doesn't net out
Right.
in the CRM. So there's
Yeah.
always going to be something that makes those numbers different.
Yeah, there's some weird edge cases and stuff like that that we gotta figure out. But I think the returns are mostly being calculated the same way, and then it was just the taxes and shipping and stuff. So I think they probably just are doing it wrong with
That's
that.
why for our loyalty program, we do it based on like not amount of spend. One, because like buy more, like that's not like our thing is fewer better. So we don't want you to
Right.
like look at a number that you spent over time, and
Right.
instead it's more based on orders. But the convenient thing is then I don't have to worry about those numbers. It's just like, okay, you placed an order, and then the flow that gives them loyalty waits, like each flow waits for 30 days, And then after 30 days, if it hasn't been returned, then you get the loyalty points. So it's a little
Right.
bit like having that separation helps with that.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And this is the loyalty thing you just recently rolled out?
Yeah.
Loyalty line.
Yeah.
Nice.
Got to figure out how it's doing. I feel like we rolled it out and then we were like, okay, it's working, I guess. So we got
Yeah.
to get some. We're hiring like a new like customer retention marketing something. They start next week, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, nice. Run some numbers on it.
Run some numbers.
Run the numbers.